Your ancestors were not built to fight. No claws worth the name. No fangs. Thin skin, slow legs, and a body that breaks easily. By every measure that mattered in the ancient world, we were prey. And yet somehow, we ended up the most dangerous animal on Earth. Not because we grew stronger, because we invented a way to hurt things from a distance. This is the story of how a naked, fragile primate became the thing everything else runs from. And it starts with a rock. Picture an early human standing on open ground. In front of him, a wounded animal. Too big to wrestle. Too dangerous to touch. Every other predator on that landscape has only one option. Get close, use your body, and hope you survive it. He has another option. He bends down and picks up a stone. That moment is one of the most important in our entire history, because throwing changed the rules of survival. Here is what almost nobody realizes about throwing. Almost no animal can do it. A chimpanzee is far stronger than you are. It can throw, but poorly, with no real speed or accuracy. You can hit a target the size of a head from 30 paces. That difference is not practice. It is anatomy. Look at a chimp's shoulder and yours side by side. Theirs points upward, built for climbing and hanging. Ours sits flat, angled out, built to rotate and whip. Our shoulders evolved into something like a slingshot. Tendons stretch, store energy, and release it all at once. The waist twists, the arm whips, the wrist snaps. Nothing else on Earth is built quite like it. Researchers believe this ability appeared roughly 2 million years ago, which means our bodies were being shaped for ranged attack long before we had weapons. The weapon came second. The aim came first. Think about what that means. Evolution was quietly preparing us for a technology we had not invented yet. And once you can hurt something from a distance, everything changes. Distance is safety. A lion has to reach you to hurt you. You do not. Every step of everything that follows is just an attempt to make that distance longer. The first upgrade was obvious. Sharpen a stick. A spear does two things at once. It puts a point on the end of your reach, and it keeps the teeth further away. The oldest spears we have found are around 400,000 years old. Wooden, carefully shaped, and balanced like a modern javelin. Whoever made those understood weight and flight. They were not crude tools. They were engineering. They were found in a German coal mine, preserved in wet ground. Alongside them were the bones of horses. Dozens of them. Whoever threw those spears was not scavenging. They were hunting large animals, on purpose and winning. But a thrown spear has a limit, and the limit is your arm. So we cheated. Someone realized that a short piece of wood, hooked at the end, could hold a spear and extend the throw. It is called an atlatl. It looks like nothing, a stick with a notch. But it turns your arm into a longer arm. The spear leaves your hand with far more speed than you could ever generate alone. The range roughly doubles. Suddenly, a hunter can strike a large animal from a distance where the animal cannot even identify what he is. And here is the part worth sitting with. That is the first machine. Not a wheel, not a mill. A stick that stores and releases energy for you. The atlatl is a human being noticing that muscles have a ceiling and deciding to go around it. Every weapon after this is the same idea, refined. And it spread across almost the entire ancient world. Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and the Americas. Different people, separated by oceans, arriving at the same solution. When an idea appears everywhere independently, it usually means it was the obvious next step. Then came the bow, and the bow is a genuinely strange invention. A spear is intuitive. Sharp thing, pointy end, throw it. A bow is not intuitive at all. Someone had to look at a bent branch and a piece of cord and imagine storing force inside the wood itself. Not throwing energy, but saving it, and then letting it out on command. The oldest arrowheads we know of are over 60,000 years old, and the bow changes the hunter completely. A spear needs strength. A bow needs only skill. Which means a small person, an old person, or a child can now kill an animal 10 times their size. The bow quietly made violence democratic. That single change reshaped every society that adopted it. Hunting was no longer reserved for the strongest men in the group. More hunters meant more food, and more food meant more people. It also made it quiet. A bow does not shout. An animal simply stops moving and never learns why. But there is a darker turn in this story, because a weapon that works on a deer works on a person. At a site in Kenya called Nataruk, archaeologists found the remains of a group of hunter-gatherers, around 10,000 years old, skulls crushed and arrow points still lodged in the bone. It is one of the oldest known scenes of organized human violence. The same invention that fed us also gave us the ability to do that to each other. Distance made hunting safer. It also made killing easier. For tens of thousands of years, this is the shape of it. Sharpen, throw, extend, store energy, release. Every improvement is a way to keep the danger further from your body. And then something arrives that has nothing to do with muscles at all. For 2 million years, every weapon had one thing in common. A human body had to supply the energy. Your arm, your back, your shoulders. The weapon only shaped what your muscles produced. That was about to end. Around 1,000 years ago in China, alchemists were mixing minerals. They were not looking for a weapon. The stories say they were looking for a medicine, possibly a formula for long life. Instead, they combined saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. And the mixture did something that no material had ever done in a human hand. It burned so fast that it created its own wind. That is really all gunpowder is, not magic. A substance that turns solid into gas almost instantly and needs somewhere to go. The first uses were not guns. They were fireworks, signals, and noise for driving off spirits and enemies. For a while, humanity had the most important chemical in history and mostly used it to make a bang. There is something almost comic about it. The substance that would rewrite every border on Earth spent its early years as entertainment. Then someone had the thought that changed the world. Put it in a tube, close one end, point the open end at your problem. The very first firearms were barely weapons. Bamboo tubes, then crude metal ones, loud and unpredictable. Early guns were often more frightening than effective. They could miss badly or burst in your hands. A trained archer could outshoot them easily for centuries. Faster to reload, more accurate, and far more reliable in the rain. On paper, the bow should have won. So why did the gun win? This is the part that matters most. It was never about being better. It was about being learnable. A longbow takes a lifetime. The archers of medieval England began training as boys, and their skeletons show it. Twisted spines and thickened arms from thousands of hours of pulling. You could not simply hand a longbow to a farmer and expect anything useful. A gun takes a few weeks. Point, brace, pull. No lifetime of conditioning. No warped skeleton. Just a few weeks of instruction. That is the whole revolution. Not power, not range, not accuracy. The gun took a skill that once required half a life and compressed it into a fortnight. And with that, everything tipped. Strength stopped mattering. Years of training stopped mattering. The physical gap between a large trained warrior and an ordinary person collapsed. A knight spent his entire life training and wore armor worth a fortune. A farmer with a few weeks of practice could end that life from across a field. An entire class of people, built on being physically superior, simply stopped making sense. Look at what actually happened here across 2 million years. A body that could throw. A sharpened stick to throw with. A hooked stick to throw further. A bent branch that stored the effort for you. And finally, a powder that supplied the effort entirely, so that no human strength was required at all. Every step removes a little more of the human body from the act. That is the whole story. We were never trying to become stronger. We were trying to stop needing to be. Every weapon in this story is a confession, a quiet admission that our bodies were never enough. And the strangest part is where it began. Not in a workshop, not in a laboratory. It began with a frightened, fragile creature on open ground who could not fight and could not win. So he bent down and picked up a stone. Everything since has been an argument about how far that stone should travel. If you found this as fascinating as I did, leave a like so more people can find it. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. There is always another strange piece of our story coming, so I will see you in the next one.